preparing to live stream. Got it?
Got it.
And oops. Yeah, no, it won't.
I love that graphic.
Joe, from the beginning. All right, here we are. We're hoping this is live on Facebook because it says it's live on my screen. So we're just going to go with that. Hello, everyone. And thanks to today's kind of lunch and learn conversation. This is pretty cool. I saw when Ginny and Shannon both popped up on the screen, I was like one of those crazy Facebook, Instagram follower people because it's like I already know them and I don't. I've been following Ginny for around a year or so, and the same with Shannon. We've printed out a couple of our activities and have been doing them. So aside from it being minus 35 with the wind chill out here today, I am pretty excited to try and convince everybody that we need to make it outside. So my name is Aileen Martin, and I'm a community consultant with the Prairie Central District for Sport, Culture, and Recreation. I'm zooming in today from Last Mountain Lake on Treaty 4 territory. In the last couple of years, I've had a super fortunate, I've been getting to know lots of the elders and knowledge keepers, and even just the everyday people who used to walk this land before us. And I'm pretty excited to be able to invite them back and have them share some of these stories with me. The people out at Touchwood Hills and the Qu'Appelle Valley have such immense knowledge and wealth in this area, and I just want to share it with everyone. So as always, keep your screens on or off. UBU, it is lunchtime. If you have any questions as we're going, please put them in the chat box. We might have a chance to unmute, except those on Facebook Live. You'll just have to put them in your chat box. And those on Facebook Live, also, if you guys can put where you're coming to from today, because we do have a prize that we're going to be offering up. So a little bit about Prairie Central. We are one of 7 sport, culture, and recreation districts in Saskatchewan, and we're funded from the Sask Lotteries Trust Fund. So all those lottery tickets you're going to be putting in stockings, but only to the adults. Those proceeds come to us through the Sask Lotteries Trust Fund, and also are distributed through Sask Sport, Sask Parks and Recreation, and Sask Culture. And we've got a couple crazy cool organizations through all of those. Sask Sport, if you live in our area, you'd be a part of our games team. We do workshops getting women in sport more active, newcomers. We also do work with Sask Parks and Recreation, so June is Parks and Rec Month. They are one of the communities in bloom. Who else do we have? Nature Saskatchewan is Sask Culture. SaskOutdoors is Sask Park. So really just a crazy wealth of information. You can go on our website and find out all about us there. And we always got to do a little bit of an agenda. So after my little spiel is done, then we've got Ginny from 1,000 Hours. She'll introduce herself better because people are always better at that, but she's a mom of 5 from Michigan, and I don't know, 24 hours and 24 degrees away. And she's the founder and dreamer behind the 1,000 Hours Outside movement. And then we have Shannon, who's the new outdoor play coordinator with SaskOutdoors, and has done some awesome things with her own company with her children. And she gets to inspire people province-wide to get outside every day. So, and then following all of that, if the people have their names in the in our little system, we'll put you on the wheel of names and do a draw. If you live in the Prairie Central District, again, in that cryptic little map, you're eligible to win our prize. So with that, I am going to stop my share and hand the mic over to Ginny.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. We are just a little south of you, and it is just, I'm sure, a little bit warmer. I'm going to try and throw my slides up here and see if that works. Can you see them or no? Probably not. I don't think I did it right. Hold on. Let me hit share screen. Here we go. You know, technology is always the thing. How'd I do? Is it there?
There we go.
There we go. I am so thrilled to be with you. Like I said, we talked for a minute earlier. We are not that far from Canada, and we've vacationed up in the Bruce Peninsula when our children were young, and I love seeing. I have this one Instagram friend who lives in Canada, and she they like swim in this lake in the summer, and then they just are ice skating all winter long. So it's so inspiring to see those changes of seasons, and how people get outdoors year round. So I am the founder of a global movement. It's called 1000 Hours Outside, and the mission is to bring back balance to childhood. Kids are on screens for an average of 1,200 hours a year, and that number has actually gone up quite dramatically since COVID. Um, but so it's about 4 to 7 hours a day is the average, and they're only outside playing and free play for 4 to 7 minutes a day. So this is kind of where the current statistics are. The National Wildlife Federation has shared those, and I think that they have even gotten more dire. So we're just sort of out of balance, almost like we've lost our way a bit. But nature time, it does so much for kids and for families and for caregivers and for parents and for teachers. And so when we just make a subtle shift as to how we uh, just fill in our calendars, it can make this tremendous impact on our lives. And so I'm just going to be sharing for a little bit before Shannon pops on, but about the history of sort of where this all came from, um, and talking a little bit about how nature immersion and going to your Saskatchewan parks and spending time there, about how that's going to set your kids up for this lifelong success in so many facets of the way that they develop. So I am just a mom. I have a math degree, so and a master's of education, but nothing that's really. I'm not like super outdoorsy and athletic and any of those things. I'm a mom of five. Our kids are ages 5 to 13, and we live in the Ann Arbor, Michigan area, where I think maybe 45 minutes to an hour from the Canadian border, and we recently moved to like a small little hobby farm, but before that, we just lived in just regular neighborhoods, and lived in a townhouse where we didn't have any yard. And so we've had these different living situations. And when my kids were little, we had a couple right in a row. They were under three. We had three of them under three. I was just drowning. And so my story really is the story of coming out of a pit of despair, basically. I was drowning with the little ones and the amount of needs that they had, and sort of my limited capacity to meet their needs. And I didn't really know how to schedule our days and structure our times. And I was constantly just signing up for programs, programs that are really good, a library program and mom's club, swim things and music and tots. And, there's all these things, and they're not cheap. And also sometimes they are, like the library ones are free, but, so they sometimes have a cost, but really there was a cost emotionally because it was so much work. It's so much work to get any child out the door to any sort of event, just in terms of all the things that you need packed up. And you just have to think everything through. And with three kids, I was just really drowning, because we'd like take every single ounce of my effort to get them to the library at 10, and then it was over at 10:30, and then I'm done. I was just toast, and it was so exhausting. And so I had a friend that was in one of my little mom groups, and she told me about this educational philosopher named Charlotte Mason. So I know some Charlottes. I was like, okay, what does Charlotte Mason have to say? And she said, Charlotte Mason says that kids should be outside for 4 to 6 hours whenever the weather is tolerable. And I just thought that was the most absurd idea. I never heard anything like that before. 4 to 6 hours. I think these programs that we create for kids tend to be 30 minutes or 45 minutes, maybe an hour, but not even usually. And I thought, well, what are the kids going to do for 4 to 6 hours outside? And come to find out, I found out years later that Charlotte Mason was from the 1800s. I think I would have thought, well, this is just an absurd idea. I'm not even going to do it. But I didn't know at the time that she was she she's was long gone here. It turns out that her ideas have really stood the test of time. She knew what she was talking about. But we in 2011, so it's been over a decade for us. I took our three young children. They were three and one, maybe close to two, 3, 1, and 6 months. So we went to a local park here where we live, and it wasn't a playground. It was just grass, with a creek and ducks and some rocks. And I remember thinking, oh, this is gonna crash and burn. This is gonna be a disaster because Play-Doh only lasts for 10 minutes, and the kids' attention spans I seemed to me to be so short. But what turned out to be this it turned out to be this absolutely beautiful, life-changing 4 hours for me. It's really why I'm sitting here today, is because we went from like barely surviving to thriving in just one day. In one 4-hour stretch of time, it was this miracle. We went to this park, we laid out a picnic blanket, we didn't have toys, and we brought lunch, and the bigger kids, the toddlers, the preschoolers, they just ran around. I came with my friend. She had three little ones. I had three little ones. Each of us had a baby, and then the other four, they just, I don't know what they did, and they were chasing things and throwing things and pretending things. And so we met at 9 in the morning and we left at 1 in the afternoon, and then everyone fell asleep on the way home, which never happens. And here it was. I made it through, 6 hours of the day, and I just completely changed my entire life. And so because it was in such a dark place of motherhood, I completely shifted how we scheduled everything. And we had this little group of friends, just 4 or 5, and we met up at our local parks we tried to do these 4-hour chunks, and then less when it was like frigid cold and more when it was nicer. And we lived that way for a couple years where we were, getting outside for 18 to 20 hours as a small little group of friends at we just kind of rotate around these local park areas. And it sounds like you guys have a lot of good options where you're at too. And I noticed that we just were not running into other children ever, ever. We're doing these little hiking trails and it's beautiful and the kids are having a great time and I'm feeling good and they're feeling good. And we just weren't seeing other kids. We were seeing grandparents, out on hikes with their hiking sticks and, their beautiful silver hair. And I'm starting to get my silver hairs. But we just weren't running into other kids. And eventually then I started to come across all this research, that this is helping all these things that the kids are doing, that they're jumping off these logs, and this is helping build their bone density, and this is helping their brains compute faster, and this is helping their lymphatic system, and this is helping their eyesight. And I was like, wow, here is this simple thing that is helping our kids with their social skills and all these different benefits, and it's also helping me. It brought me out of, just this dark place. In one day it changed, and, we're all just thriving. So, the kicker for me was that reading this statistic in Scott Sampson's book, How to Raise a Wild Child, that kids are outside for 4 to 7 minutes a day, and on screens for 4 to 7 hours. And so I said I was like a math teacher, before I stayed at home with our kids. And so, like a weird math person. So I decided to add up the amount of time that we were spending outside. And over the course of a year, and it turned out that we were outside for 18 to 20 hours a week on average, which was about 1,200 hours a year. And that was the exact amount of screen time that kids are getting. And it's 1,200 hours a year. And I just would think back on our year's worth of experiences and how rich they were. And I thought, wow, we would have missed so much. Not that screens are evil. Screens have so much that they can provide for us and different opportunities in so many capacities. But I just thought, wow, they're taking place of these just like rich experiences for kids. And so since then, I have probably read, I don't know, 60, 70 books just filled with research about play and outdoor play and sensory experiences and how they're so important for children. And so we just So I thought I'm going to write about this because I was just in such a rough spot and it changed things for all of us. And so I thought I'm going to call it 1,000 hours outside because that's a little catchier than 1,200 hours outside. And it sort of stacks up with this latest research of about 3 hours a day. Angela Hanscom talked about that in her book called Balanced and Barefoot. And she's a pediatric occupational therapist, about how, that's sort of the sweet spot, that kids should be outdoors if they can for about 3 hours a day. And so for us, we have 5 kids, and, we have orthodontist appointments, and we have these different commitments. And so I have a year-long goal, because a daily goal just doesn't really work for our lifestyle. I don't think it works for most people's lifestyle. But if over the course of a year I can embed these 1,000 hours of outdoor, hands-on, real-life interactive moments, then I know we're going to have a full year. I know we're going to have this foundation of memories, and I know that our kids are going to hit all these developmental things that they need as well. So we actually have on our website, and these are free, and these have been designed by the 1,000 Hours Outside community. We do a contest every year, but we actually have tracking sheets, where people print these out. Sometimes they get them blown up really big for a couple of dollars at the office supply store, and so for every hour that we're outside, they're coloring in, and it's modeling for them. It's modeling for them that, look, we have to be diligent about filling our life with what we want to fill it with first, and leaving the leftover time for screens, because otherwise we just become so unbalanced. And so we also have an app that also walks you through, and it gives you a badge. And we were hesitant to do the app, partially just because we're just like a small family. I don't know. Apps are like kind of tricky. They're not cheap. But also we really are into the list. Like, we want the kids, the kids are coloring it in. And, they didn't used to have to do this because kids just played and it was a natural part of childhood, but it has become, the different case these days. So, but we do also have an app. So many people ask for that. So we have that as well, that you can just, start your timer and just keep track of it and celebrate your time outdoors. So with my time here, I just want to walk through. I think it's always just encouraging to know, how is nature immersion helping our kids? So this quote says, children are born passionately eager to make as much sense as they can of the things around them. And so our kids, it's like, we think, we just think that we have to teach them everything, but we don't. They have these own inner feedback loops. It's how they learn how to crawl and how they learn how to walk. And, the most brilliant person in the world couldn't come up with a course of study better than the one an infant comes up with for themselves. They learn for mastery. They know how many times they need to roll over before they've, mastered that skill, and then how they get up on all fours and how they rock back and forth, and they take those first little movements, and they do that all on their own. It's intrinsically motivated. And so if we continue to step back, as they grow, they are going to continue to contribute to their own development through movement and through exploration, because that's just part of the way that they are designed. And so as parents, and as educators, we want our kids to do well academically, but so often we think of academics as sitting, right? We sit of a pencil and a paper and a workbook, and a teacher that's up at the front, and don't tip your chair and sit quietly facing forward and listen, but what I have learned over the years, and I saw it firsthand with my kids, is when you're outside and they're moving, they're thriving. I noticed all of a sudden with my kids when they were really young, all of a sudden, look at me, mom, look at me. And they're trying these harder and harder things. They're climbing up further and further. And so I read this fabulous book. It's called Smart Moves by Carla Hannaford. She is a PhD. She's also a pediatric occupational therapist, and we have a podcast. She's in her mid 70s. And so I just was able to actually talk with her within the past couple weeks, and her episode is going to go live in January. But she talks about how complex movements enhance and protect our brain function. So, and this makes sense. It's like, as kids increase in their complexity, the pathways in their brains become quicker and faster, and their sort of brain computer is able to compute at these higher speeds. So one of the statistics that really stopped me in my tracks was this one. She says elderly people who dance regularly decrease their risk of dementia and Alzheimer's by 76%, and those that play a musical instrument decrease the risk by 69%. So these are huge numbers, huge. If you say, hey, I got this thing, here's how you can reduce your risk of Alzheimer's by 76%. All you got to do is dance. And so what's happening here is that these complex movement is enhancing the way that our brains work, and it's protecting our brains, and that these benefits, they last for a lifetime. And so what do kids do naturally when we step back? They move, right? And they move in these fantastic ways. They spin and they roll and they run and they leap and they do all of these things. And you can watch, the progression from toddling, to walking, to running, to leaping. I always think about, my kids are pretty young, and there's this state park that we go to that has, it's really cool swimming hole. It's a little off the beaten path. And there's a dock, and there'll be 2 or 3, and they can run and leap, and land. And I just think, wow, that's a really complex movement to get that timing of when do you leap and hitting the water and all those types of things. And so, um, I think because kids enter school so early, we forget, we cheer on those first steps, but what about when they learn to ride their bike and cast their fishing line, and when they learn how to skateboard and they're shooting basketball hoops, and I think they're mountain biking and they're doing these trails. It's like they can ice skate. All of these things, it will grow with the child, and it will just help to protect their brain, and it helps them academically. Their brains work better. So additionally, their bodies are taking in information in a sensory way. So the more time that we allow our kids to be in these sensory rich environments, there's just greater opportunity for brain growth. So we're moving out of like that 2D to 3D. And so, we want our kids to do well academically. We get them outside, we let them play. And then socially, kids are coming up with something out of nothing when they're outside. I mean, it's truly fantastic. And they're intrinsically motivated to keep playing. So this says the main goal of free play with friends is keeping all players engaged. This is an incredible goal, and when children learn to do it well, it is an accomplishment to be celebrated. So free play outside requires cooperation as well as collaboration as children sort through ideas and through resources. So, when we were young, there was like this ragtag baseball field in our neighborhood, and, the kids would bike up there, and every day you'd have different number of kids. Sometimes there's 6 and sometimes there's 3 and sometimes there's a lot. And you have to negotiate everything. You have to negotiate all the rules and what counts and where are the bases and who plays what position. And if there's not enough people, this person's going to step in and pitch for both teams and all of those type of things. And so when you step back and think about it, you realize, there's so much going on under the surface as these kids, they learn to compromise because they want to play. They want to play. And I read recently in Peter Gray has a book, a really good one called Free to Learn. The subtitle's so good. It's something like why unleashing the power to play will make kids happier and better students for life. I don't know. It's a really good subtitle, but Free to Learn. And he talks about how like kids who play pickup games of sports, they don't get injured very often, because if you hurt someone else, the game is over. And so they're intrinsically motivated. They want the play to last as long as possible. And so they're not going to slam into the little kid, or they're just going to be a little bit more careful with their bodies. And so you can just see how these skills would translate for a lifetime, just to learn how to engage someone else and keep them engaged, So what a cool thing when we take kids outside and it's helping with their socialization. I read in Simplicity Parenting, which is a fantastic book by Kim John Payne. He says the primary predictor of success and happiness in life is our ability to get along with others. That's such a big statement. So it's like, well, when do we learn how to get along with others? It's hard to get along with others sometimes, right? But we learn how to get along with others during play that's not interrupted by adults, right? Because we have to figure it out. We have to sort it out ourselves. He says also in that book, Kim John Payne, he says, um, self-directed play builds multiple and emotional intelligences. It fosters the skills necessary to navigate an uncertain future, one that will demand increasing flexibility and creative problem solving. Wasn't he right on? We're like in that piece of future that's demanding flexibility and problem solving. He says unstructured play and plenty of it is a developmental necessity for kids, some might say now more than ever. So we take kids outside, we're helping their brain function, we're helping their social skills, we're helping their emotional development, and this is so important right now as depression rates are just skyrocketing. But when we let kids outside and away from the hustle and bustle, it provides them respite, a chance to unwind and a recharge. Even simply looking at nature is calming for children. And this is true for us as adults as well. This is sort of the missing piece to the puzzle. If we're just feeling these anxious feelings and our blood pressure is going up, and we just have the weight of the world on our shoulders, that we can step outside and unwind. And and it works. It works. It spans the ages. And so this is also a quote from that book, Balanced and Barefoot. Angela Hanscom is the pediatric occupational therapist. Her subtitle is How Unrestricted Outdoor Play is for Strong, Confident, and Capable Children. And isn't that what we want for our kids? For them to be flexible. And so we step outside and we like remove ourselves from the flashing screens. The flashing screens are just like, that fight or flight. And, we remove ourselves from the digital media, and we look around and we hear the sounds and we see and we just feel better. So for our emotional state, it's going to help us. And then, and then physically, this is one that's a little bit more straightforward. Like we know that going outside can help us physically, but there are actually like a considerable amount of ways that going outside helps us physically. So obviously facilitates movement. Kids are supposed to be moving miles a day, when they obviously can't move miles in 4 to 7 minutes. So, miles a day. But then, there's this flexibility component that the outside, the paths are not flat. It's not flat like carpet or, like an indoor mall. There's all these variations. And so that helps kids stretch their ligaments, and it helps us stretch our ligaments and tendons. And, it helps us with our risk assessment. So we know what our bodies can and can't do. And we become, more in our bodies in terms of injury and falling. And we just have this, we're more sure-footed. In fact, I tell you what, we went to, so in North Carolina here in the States, there's this area called Asheville. It's filled with waterfalls. And I'm not sure if you have areas like that, where you guys are, where, there's just like pockets. This is probably 8 or 10 hours from us. So we go, and then it's just like in the surrounding hour, there's maybe 15 waterfalls or something. And so, we've gone there twice because it's just such a really cool area. And one time we were there, and I'm exploring, and as an adult, like I'm way slower than my kids are because I'm not used to, the moving rocks and the slippery terrain. That they're better at it than I am. And so I just remember like my brain is so tired at the end of those days because everything's wobbling and you're having to think with every single step and adjust. And I slipped. We were like exploring in this one area, and I slipped, and I wouldn't have gotten super hurt, but I sure did slip, and my 6-year-old daughter grabbed me. Like she had that coordination, and she had that sure-footedness, and that quickness, because they've spent so much time outside. And so, our kids have actually never needed a prescription, a doctor's prescription. They've been sick here and there a little bit, and like kids do, but they kick it quick, and nothing's been all that serious. They were getting sick a lot more before we started spending time outside, but that movement helps their lymphatic system, and it helps their eyesight, which is a really interesting thing that I've been learning about recently, that, the rods and the cones in their eyes, the sunlight helps shape those. And then with every sort of up and down movement, even if you've got a little baby and a carrier, that up and down movement, their eyes are tracking together, and so with every step, their eyes are going to work better together. That's going to help them with reading. as they get older. And so there's just all these physical benefits that happen when you take kids outside too. So it's this simple thing, when we expose ourselves to sunlight. Look at all these benefits. A series of exposures to sunlight will produce decreases in resting heart rate, decreases in blood pressure, decreases in respiratory rate, decreases in blood sugar, lactic acid, and increases in energy, strength, endurance, tolerance to stress, and ability of the blood to absorb and carry oxygen. They sign me up. What a list. I could have probably done the whole presentation just on this one slide. That's it. I mean, what do you have to do? Do you have to pay? Do you have to put in all sorts of effort? No, you just have to expose yourself to the sun. It's simple. And I think partially maybe that's why, we've been so misguided. And I certainly was misguided. It's simpler than we think. And so this 1,000 hours outside movement, I always say, is this message of hope that we can do less and gain more. It's just hard. This parenting thing is hard. And I taught in the classroom, teaching is hard because kids are a bundle of energy and they're supposed to be. And so we're kind of just managing all of that. And we're limited on the resources that we have. And so if we can find these simple things that decrease our heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, blood sugar, lactic acid, and increase our energy, and it doesn't cost anything. What a cool thing to know and be aware of. So as you're thinking about, especially here in the winter, is it worth it to bundle up? Yeah, because you're going to expose yourself to the full spectrum of sunlight, and it's going to do all these things for you and all of these things for your kids. So I'm going to go through these real quick, but light is not just for vision. It's also to stimulate the function of our cells, and the light helps us with our body rhythms. Our eyes are super cool. This is long though. Okay, this is really long, but this is super interesting. It has been calculated that our entire volume of blood circulates through our eyes every 2 hours. So if we're outside for a lengthy period of time, that means all of our blood is exposed to full spectrum sunlight. So that we've been learning about how if you get outside in the morning, that morning sunlight will help reset your body systems. And there's over 100 body systems that are sort of based on this 24-hour biological clock. And so by getting outside in the morning and moving our bodies and walking or just being out and letting that sun hit our eyes, we're really hitting so many areas of our health. So I love this quote, where the sun does not go, the doctor does. So I was like, oh yeah, going outside helps to be healthier, but there are so many ways that it helps us be healthier. The UV light, it hits our eyes, it stimulates our immune system, and so this list, I had no list at the beginning. I went outside because I was drowning and I needed an answer, and going outside was my answer. And then, oh, my kids are like thriving all of a sudden, and they're ruddy and they're coordinated. And so I'm starting to like add to my list, like, oh, I'm seeing these different things. Like, this is good for my kids too. And then I start reading these books, and then the list just continues to grow. I read recently that our bones freeze sunlight or something like that. It freezes, and that Katie Bowman, she has a movement called Nutritious. It's called Nutritious Movement. Is her movement, and she has a book called Grow Wild. But I talked to her recently, and she said osteoporosis is a childhood disease that shows up in adulthood. So because we should be freezing the sunlight in our bones, I guess, as kids, and so for our overall health, getting outside is so important. So this says, not a single cell in the body can escape the influence of light striking the eyes. To date, approximately 100 bodily functions have been identified as having daily rhythms. And so this is a US stat, but we have just moved indoors. People used to work outside, 75%, 3 out of 4 people. And now in the 70s, and this is such an old statistic, I can't even imagine what it is 50 years later, less than 10% did. And so, The light bulbs have moved us indoors, and we are just spending so much time inside. 93% of life is now spent indoors. And um, so we just want to be careful about the light that we're exposing our kids to, and even the monitors, they have different light that our eyes are not used to, and that affect our body rhythms. And sometimes the kids even go catatonic kind of, and we've seen that, like you can't get their attention, in front of a screen. And so just being aware that, hey, I'm going to get outside, and that sunlight, even on a cloudy day, we have this is so nerdy, but we have this like lux meter. I learned about it from this Dr. Chris Winter. He wrote a book about sleep that just came out. Oh, it's up there. It's called The Rested Child. The Rested Child. And his book just came out this year, and he talks about like the lumens or the lux that comes from the sun, and how it's obviously so much brighter outside. Well, for, I don't know, 25 or $30, you can buy this little machine. I feel like I'm a Ghostbuster, I'm like walking outside with my kids, and you can see how many lumens there are from this, how bright the sun is. And you need something like 5,000 to really wake your body up. And even on a cloudy day, there's so much more. Inside, it's like 500, and on a really sunny day, it's going to be 100,000. But on a cloudy day, it's going to be 5 or 10 or 12,000, so even on a cloudy day, you're going to get that sunlight that you need in order to wake you up. So, oh, look, I had that right there. I jumped ahead of myself. So, all of this light that we expose ourselves to is so good. Even increasing the level of romance hormones. Woo! All right. And even look at that last statement there. It says children have more cavities during the school year than during the summer. So I've read books that say, have your kids go to the dentist in August. That's the best time to go, like after they've had all this big vitamin D. So anyway, just a lot there about sunlight. And so I know Shannon's coming up here in a few minutes, but what we want to recognize is that outdoor free play benefits the whole child, and those benefits are lifelong, lasting benefits. And at the same time, we're also getting benefits. So what a win-win. This is what is currently sort of out there in terms of time. 5 to 8 hours of active free play a day for toddlers and preschoolers. That's a lot. 4 to 5 hours for school age, 3 to 4 hours for adolescents. So this is for your teens too. Get them outside, get them to the parks. Take advantage of all that your park systems have to offer, the different events and the different hiking trails. And I'm sure you guys have like cross country skiing, all those cool things, snowshoeing. Get your older kids out too. Bring some friends. They're going to love it. So, this is a quote by Mary Antoinette. I've got a typo down there. I've got to fix that. But what you're going to do is you're just going to infuse your year with memories. As I tucked my daughter in her bed tonight, she asked me what I would buy if I had all the money in the world. And staring at her sweet face, I could only think of one word. And so I climbed into bed next to her and I whispered it in her ear. I'd buy time, sweet love of mine. I'd buy time. And so 1,000 Hours Outside is a movement about how you use your time, and just really filling your life with the moments that you're always going to remember. So I really appreciate you having me on. And I'm at 1,000 Hours Outside and hashtag 1,000 Hours Outside. It's pretty easy to find me. And I think Shannon's up. She's going to tell you where you can go. I'm pretty sure your ideas, right? Practical things.
That was awesome, Ginny. I'm just going to share. So I went on the website and I bought a bunch of the patches and the stickers. And in my little community, I help do lots of rec programming and stuff. And we're going to start a challenge in January, because I find I can send my kids outside and be like, go outside and play. But literally yesterday, I maybe spent 20 minutes outside, and that's a stretch. Like I walked to the garbage and I did this. And I think that especially as we're entering into these like mind-numbingly cold days, we still have to make that effort to get out. And I know once we're accumulated and once we've got all of our layers on, we can definitely do it. But especially lots of the people working from home, like if I don't have to go anywhere except to the rink, I'm to my car and back. And so I'm excited for this challenge for me, not only for my kids and my community, but for me to like get me out. So yes, thank you. And we're going to give away some stickers to everybody.
All right, that's awesome. Love it.
Okay, so here we go. Shannon, you're up.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. So yeah, thank you so much, Ginny. That's awesome. I feel like you're my people. That's literally my story. I'm a mom. I also have a Bachelor of Education. And last year during the pandemic, I was homeschooling my children, and it was like, how are we going to get through this? We're going to have to go outside lots. So I have this really interesting job where I work part-time for Nature Regina, and I work part-time for SaskOutdoors. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff I do with Nature Regina. I would tell you, I don't know what the conversion for temperature is, but today here in Regina, it is minus 35 with the wind chill. It is freezing. And my kids and I walked to school this morning. They're back at regular. It's a 25-minute walk, and it changes things for them in the morning. They do not say, will you drive me? They're like, they actually enjoy it. So that early morning, the sun's just coming up. I know that's helping them. So anyway, that was just a little sidebar. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Wandering Wednesdays. So these are some, I guess, self-guided get outside outdoor adventure guides. Basically, my kids and I go into parks and open spaces in and around Regina, and we explore, and we make guides that people can use. So I know for families, lots of times, this is what happened for me when they were little. It's intimidating to go into a new unknown space. Like, what is there? What's the path like? Can I take my stroller? You know, it's just really unknown. So we go into parks and open spaces and take pictures, and my kids basically run around like crazy. And I take photos of things, and they ask me questions like, Mom, what's happening under the ice and snow? And then I usually, we work together to figure out the answers, or what is that plant? What's its purpose? And so we've added all that information into our guides, and we've been really lucky to get some funding from the Community Initiatives Fund, and also from now the City of Regina is funding Wandering Wednesdays. So I'm super, super grateful for that, because it takes a lot of work to put these together. For us, we live in a tiny community. We're a part of Treaty 4. So the home of the Cree, the Saulteaux, the Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota, and the homeland of the Cree. And it's really cool. What I think is the guides are like land-based learning. So basically teaching people, like, the land's obviously shifted since settlers have arrived, but we're teaching people a lot about like the indigenous plants that they can find in parks and open spaces. And we kind of encourage people to think of how the landscape is shifting, but mostly see things that have been there for thousands of years, like little creatures when you're pond dipping that know how to keep a wetland clean and protect our water system for us. So yeah, we've had 300,000 Facebook views of our Wandering Wednesdays thing, which is like nuts for how small our community is. And yeah, I've done 29 media interviews because the media is very interested in providing positive outdoor experiences for people right now. I'm going to just take you through. So the Hidden Valley Wildlife Sanctuary is a property that's owned by Nature Regina. They bought it in the 1930s for like a tiny, tiny amount of money. It's one of the only places in the Capel Valley that's protected. So all the plants and wildlife there have not changed for thousands of years. There's a fence around it, and you'll find it's a great place to go exploring. This is one guide that I made with my kids. It was minus 42 the day that we went out there. But we were bundled up, and my kids had a blast. They roar around, they find stuff, they're exploring, discovering. And then, like you said, the ride home, everyone's like energy level, it's calm. We get home, it's quiet for like 2 hours. Like, everyone's kind of got what they needed from the experience. So in the guide, there's a little this is how you can find animal tracks out there. There's so many different animals that live out there, especially right after it snows. We were there the first people after it snowed. It was unbelievable. all the things. And then my kids were trying to work out what had happened, like when we would find tracks. This is what it looks like in the spring and summer. At the end of June, if you ever get the chance, there are like thousands of indigenous plants that flower. The cacti bloom out there. You will actually see like hundreds of Western red lilies growing wild. It's an unbelievable place. And there's the added challenge of hiking from the bottom of the Capel Valley to the top. So what I love with my kids too out there is it is a place for outdoor play. Like you can kind of see where they are, but it's a protected area. So they can only go so far. And they love the whole idea of just like tearing off ahead of me and, going and finding things and yelling back, when they found something new and cool that they're discovering. So yeah, if people are interested, if you go to Nature Regina's website, the natureregina.ca/get outside family hikes, we have 35 plus locations. So we found some hiking trails that people don't know about that they can go explore, which is the added bonus with little kids of, they're excited, like, whoa, we're going to go to a new place and run around and find some fun stuff. So if you're interested, you can go to our website. So I'm going to talk a little bit about outdoor play for probably 5 minutes. So SaskOutdoors is a provincial scope nonprofit, and we've been working very closely for the last, I don't even know, quite a long time with the Saskatchewan In Motion Outdoor Play Working Group. So as most people know, Saskatchewan In Motion is winding down. So SaskOutdoors has taken on responsibility for outdoor play, which I'm extremely excited about because that means that, I get to inspire people to get outside for province-wide now. So we're very excited about trying to get more people outside, given our extreme temperatures here. And I'm going to just share some different facts, I guess, that Ginny presented, but the same idea that healthy childhood development requires outdoor play. There are some things that happen outside that cannot happen indoors. In fact, we've been having conversations about it's actually more risky to keep your kids inside than sending them out because of the impact of being on screens for excessive amounts of time. So there is so much research now that's showing if kids are playing outside, they're actually way more physically active. They tend to get more steps in, they're exploring. If you take them, if an example would be soccer. I was thinking my kids have done indoor soccer, outdoor soccer. Indoor soccer, they're sitting on a bench when it's not their turn. Outdoor soccer, they're tearing around, climbing trees, kicking the ball back and forth, right? So it's kind of stuff like that. Kids, when they're unsupervised, which is something that people don't generally allow now, they actually get even more steps in. So SaskOutdoors, we're trying to encourage people to think about how they can safely let their kids explore in their own neighborhood. We have a new social media campaign called Get Outside and Play. So we're featuring like pictures of kids doing different outdoor play or risky play. And then we include like facts about the benefits of those types of play and I guess how to do them safely. So yeah, these are literally my own children, my niece, and my friend Lacey's kids. So people are kind of sharing their photos with us. So if you want to get inspired or learn more about outdoor play, if you follow SaskOutdoors on Facebook or Instagram, we're posting lots of stuff. Probably will now be posting lots of Ginny's stuff, but I'm reposting it on there. And we're going to start a bunch of online workshops. So Adventure Smart is a program from the Saskatoon Search and Rescue Association. And they're going to teach us about, okay, when you do send your kids outside alone in your own neighborhood, how can you feel good about that and feel like you have enough precautions in place that they're safe? Because we really want to encourage people to be doing more of that. We're also going to have a loose parts play workshop coming up in February with Christina Pickles from, she's in Calgary. So we have we have a new website that has information about outdoor play. So just so if people are interested. And this is the same stuff. Like, what are the benefits? They're endless. I could just have reams of information about how important sending kids outside is. My kids love to climb trees, and I cannot tell you how good, like the look on their face after they've climbed a tree. They've like figured out how to safely negotiate up and down. Their self-confidence is there. They're learning. The data is actually showing us that, I'm going to go to the next one, that that when kids engage in risky play, they're actually becoming safer because they're learning how their body moves and they're learning what their body can do and can't do. So they're actually reducing the number of the kids who spend more time outside have less injury than the children that spend time inside, which is like mind blowing for me, right? Yeah, I'm gonna just, let me see. Oh yeah, I'll take about 3 minutes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Nature Regina and SaskOutdoors, Nature Saskatchewan, and the Wild Outside program. We do a program in Regina called the Get Outside Kids Club. So we're taking parents and their children into parks and open spaces. And it's guided activities, but what we're really excited about is that what parents don't realize is they're going into these new places with a group of people so they feel more comfortable, and we're doing like activities, but then they want to go back later with their kids in different seasons. So we're kind of having this like resurgence of people actually being out in parks and open spaces in Regina, which is awesome. Yesterday, I do a preschool club as well. We had 28 kids and their parents come out in -27. It was amazing. So this is our program. We started last year in COVID because we knew people were learning from home, and now we've had over 1,700 people participate in the Get Outside Kids Club. So it's wildly popular in Regina, and luckily we have a little bit of funding to be able to do the program here in Regina. 1,700 people when we could only gather groups of 9 or less for like months and months and months. It was a pretty big undertaking. This is one of our sessions. We took the kids to Hidden Valley, and a lot of the parents didn't know about Hidden Valley. So we went there and we did a bunch of activities. And my favorite part, like this was when everyone arrived. We were doing an activity up on top of the Capel Valley with the kids. And then this is some of the stats. So participating in the kids club is improving mental and physical health. I mean, everyone on here probably knows that, but we have statistics showing that that's what's happening. And it's actually creating a conservation ethic amongst children. So they want to protect these spaces that they're going into, which is awesome. So this is a little exploration, like kids are finding some indigenous plants in the fall, and I was helping them identify them. And we did a little drawing exercise at the top of the Capel Valley. These are some of our activities that we do, but this is my favorite. These are the kids after. Okay, guys, you're here at Hidden Valley, and the moms are all sitting in the parking lot having a little visit, and the kids are tearing up and down the hill. And this one little guy, he's not little, he's 13. He would hate that I just said that. But he comes tearing down towards me. He's like, teacher, we found cacti. He was so excited. And you can just see like the excitement of kids. Just, they don't need activity. They were just out in an open space. They're enjoying themselves. They're learning. Their bodies are moving. Like the one kid came tearing down the hill and fell and ducked and rolled and bounced up and kept going. So they're learning about their own bodies. So we're trying to find funding right now to expand Get Outside Kids Club province-wide, because we want to do more of this good stuff. So if anyone on this is interested, I'm pretty sure we're going to get some funding, and definitely let me know. That's my SaskOutdoors, contact, I guess. So that's my little spiel for now. That's a lot of stuff in 15 minutes.
That's awesome. I think we should definitely bring you back, bring both of you back. In my, I'm not very tech savvy, but I like to pretend I am. So in my mind, I'm thinking we need to start like a hashtag or start, there's lots of 1,000 hours outside Facebook groups, and maybe we need to just kind of pivot that a little bit to like 1,000 hours outside in Saskatchewan or in Sask or something. And it would just be fun to like track and see if we can kind of start our own little movement here. So I am going to, does anybody that's on the call right now, I know there's about 4 or 5. Does anybody have any questions from kind of the gallery? I know there's a couple free range moms in the group that are loving all this risky play and get your kids to the top of that tree and have to fall a couple times so they learn not to go so high next time or figure out how to get better. So I'll just give a minute for them, and then if we don't hear anything from the crowd, nothing. Okay, so we've got here, sorry, I forgot to hit the right button. So we have our wheel of names here. So we are going to give it a couple of shuffles and a spin. I always love this cheesy thing. I don't know who invented it, but it's awesome. And the winner is Ginny. Yay! And I believe she's from Delisle. So I will, I'll connect with you and we'll figure out how to get you your prize pack from Prairie Central. Yeah, so again, if you gals, we've got 2 minutes to spare here. I know we jammed a lot into this lunch and learn, and I want to thank you both for coming. The Saskatchewan, or not Saskatchewan, the Canadian, what even is it? The framework for recreation, the framework for recreation in Canada. I've got it on my wall. Really is pushing, or not pushing, is really encouraging kind of using outdoor spaces and finding new creative uses for outdoor spaces in all ages, in all seasons, just getting people outside and getting people active, because as you ladies have said, the benefits are far beyond like having a good muscle or a good 6-pack. Like it's far beyond that kind of health. And yeah, we've got the backing of our province. They are on board with the framework for recreation. So fingers crossed, Shannon, we can find some money and you can spread your crazy cool idea throughout the province, and we can follow Ginny and her family around and yeah, print out some of those things for your communities and share them with your friends. Give them as stocking stuffers this year and kind of challenge your neighbors. And I think I think we've got a good thing going here. And it is what's the temperature here right now? -33 here in Silton with the wind chill. But I pinky promise that I will get outside for at least a half hour today. I'm going to bundle up to my extreme. So yes, again, thank you everybody for joining us, and stay in touch. We've got a couple other workshops coming up. We actually have the Saskatchewan Wanderer. He's going to join us in January for kind of a brainstorming idea of how we can get communities out and about, and then we'll write a grant afterwards. So that should be pretty cool. We'll do that. It's all on our website, www.prairiecentral.ca, and I will send out an evaluation following this with the links. So again, thank you everybody, and this was great. I'm inspired. I hope you all are too. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.